Hi dear chess friends, this is Grandmaster Darini. I'm pretty happy to be here with you. Today we're gonna talk about one of the famous endings, one of the popular ending, which is a rook and bishop against the rook. Usually in most of the tournaments we will face this position, and this is very important to know what's the result and what's the idea for attacker, what's the idea for the defender to holding the game. So those questions would be pretty important. Actually, this position happened with for some of my students in a tournament. So then I decided to making one video and explaining the idea for attackers and defender to who wants to playing professionally, to who wants to learning and improving in chess. Hope it will be useful for you. Okay, let's go, my friend. Right now I want to talk about the attacker side. Generally, we can say in 80% of the time during the tournament, in time trouble, attackers would be win the game, because the defending of the position would be tough. Generally in chess, attack would be easier if you compare it to the defend. So here, for attack, we have a multiple idea, multiple moves, but for defend, we have a limited options. So this can be make it tough for the defender to finding the actually the best move, especially in time trouble. So first of all, let's see if defender playing some normal moves or playing a bit careless, and then let's see what's going on. For example, here white make a check on h5. The idea is clear. We wanted to push out the opponent's king to the corner, and then by bringing the king to the third rank, try to checkmating our opponent's king. This is the general plan in this position, in this ending. Okay, probably defender will keeping the king on the center as much as possible. Probably king d4. We have to activating the king, try to limiting the opponent's king as much as possible by opposition, putting the king in front of the opponent's king. Right now, by one check, we are able to push out this king one rank down. So black making check on a4, probably covering with the bishop would be a good idea. Rook a1 to making check from the behind the king. So we will make a check on h6 to push out the king one rank down. King goes to d7, bishop d5. The idea would be clear. White wanna putting the king in one of the squares like e5 or c5, and then covering the check with the bishop c4 or bishop e4. Okay, black making check on d1, king e5, check, bishop e4. For example, rook d1, check, black has to go into the back rank. Right now, we're reaching important position and very critical moment in a game. Okay, as a attacker, we have to bring the king to the third rank. Right now, king e6 is a possible, but maybe black will be going to the corner like king c8, and still not possible to making progress, or even maybe he can keeping the rook to this d file, doesn't matter. But here we have to put the bishop on d5 to making cover. Right now we want to put in the king on d6. Okay, let's see, black making check here. We're putting the king on d6, and here we reached a very famous position, which is a Philidor position. And right now, position is absolutely winning for attacker, for white side, but checkmating also not easy. I mean, for checkmating, you have to know some idea to catch the black king and checkmate it. For example, here, if we're doing some normal moves like rook h8 check, he will block with rook e8. if we playing something like rook g7, normally he can play rook e2, or if we bring the rook to the a7, sorry, it's black to move rook e2. If we playing rook a7 to making checkmate on a8, probably defender will playing rook c2, and still we are not able to making progress. Right now, it is important we understanding this position, as I said, Philidor position, how to playing as a attacker. Right now we have to doing one waiting move, especially in this moment when your opponents put his rook on the second rank. Second rank and first rank would be the best place for the defender rook. So here we have to playing one waiting moves like rook g7. In most of the endings, waiting moves would be pretty important. You have to be care about it. In most of the ending, even knight and bishop checkmate, in most of the endings, you have to give the time to your opponent, because in this case, you can catch him. So we give him time by playing rook g7. Right now, if black playing with the king on c8 or e8, we are able to checkmating on g8. So right now black cannot move in the king at all by checkmating on the 8th rank. So there is just 3 move that we can care about it: rook e3, rook e1, or rook e8. Probably putting the rook to the e8 would be bad, because rook right now is a very passive, and by moving the rook to the other side like a7, we're gonna to checkmate on a8, and black is not able to defending and holding the game. So most probably in this moment defender will playing rook e3 or rook e1. First of all, I want to talk about the weak move, which is a rook e3. If someone playing rook e3 right now, this rook is quite limited, and better to give you time to thinking on the position. So you can pause the video and try to finding the winning way for white. Okay, let's continue. Right now, if we bring in the rook to the other side, I mean queen side, by rook a7, still black is able to holding the game with the idea rook c3. For example, rook a7, rook c3, and after check he will play rook c8. Still we are not able to checkmating. But remember, when you face this position, I mean the defender rook put his rook on the 3rd rank, right now this is a sign for you. You have to making check on d7, and after that the rest move would be easier. This check would be crucial for us to finding the direction. After this check, let's see. If defender playing some moves like king c8, then rook a7 will be winning, because there is no way to stopping this checkmate on a8, because this rook is pretty limited on the 3rd rank. As you see, he cannot bring the rook to the b3 to stopping the checkmating on 8th rank. So here by rook b3 we will take it, and bringing the king to the e8 also would be losing. By moving the rook to the b7, the idea would be clear. We want to checkmate on the back rank. So this is force for the defender, bringing the king to the f8. Okay, right now again I want to give you time to thinking on the position and finding the winning way. Yes, that's right. Rook f7 check. King g8 will meet by rook e7. We will taking his rook. So black has to play king e8. And right now, very important move, we will bring in the rook to the 4th rank. The idea is interesting. After rook f4, the threatenings would be bishop c6 check, and then rook f8 checkmate. So there is a two-way for the defender to holding the game. Number one would be rook d3, which is also nothing for black, because we will play in rook g4, and there is no way to stop in checkmate on g8. Once again, this rook on the third rank is limited. Even here, black is not able to bring the rook to the f3 to covering the checkmate by rook f8. So here, rook d3 will be faced by rook g4. Second move would be king d8. If we reach this position, here we have a very strong move. It will be covering the rook with the bishop e4. Very strong move and very smart idea. Right now, threatening would be rook f8 check, and black is not able to defending. For example, king e8 will meet by check on c6 or g6, and next checkmating on f8. So it was about the rook e3. Just remember, when we reach this position, which is the defender put his rook on the third rank, here we have to making check on the d7 between the both of the kings, and then direction will be clear for us. Okay, let's go to the best move for the defender, which is a rook e1 here. This is the best move. Why? Because defender have a more space to defending. For example, in such positions, when the rook was on the third rank, it was not possible for defending to bring in the rook to the f3 or rook b3. But right now, rook is able to covering the back rank by rook c1 or rook f1 or rook b1. There is a more space for the defender rook. Okay, when we're facing this position, again, the plan would be same. We have to make him in zugzwang to reaching the position which the rook coming to the third rank. So the idea generally would be same. First, we bring in the rook to the b7 to checkmating on b8. Right now, black have just two moves to defending, king c8 or rook c1. The best move would be rook c1 that we will see. First of all, we will see the king c8 move. So after king c8, we can just bring the rook to the a7 to making checkmate on a8, and the only way for the defender would be bringing the rook to the b1, and then rook will be shifting to the other side. Plan would be easy, checkmating on h8, and after king b8, we will make a check, king here, check, king b6, and then check, and then we will able to take in the rook, and this is just winning for white. So it was about the king c8 here. Second move, which is the best, would be rook c1. So we reach this position inside of the large side or large box of this board to this small size, a small box of the board. So when we see this position, right now we have a brilliant move, which is the only way to making progress, and you have to memorize this idea. This is a bishop b3, very strong move. What's the idea of this move? First of all, looks like a waiting move, giving time for the defender to making mistake. Second, we already controlling the d1, and in some cases also we have a plan to putting this bishop on a4 to controlling the e8 square. So we will see bishop b3, very strong move. Right now black have just two move, rook c3 or king c8. After rook c3, we will be reach that position, black played rook e3. So the idea would be same. Okay, first of all, let's see king c8 here. If black playing king c8 in this moment, we will bring in the rook to b4. The idea is clear. White wanna making check on e6 and then checkmating on the b8. So there is a one move which is a king d8. If black playing king d8 right now, we're moving the rook from the b4 to h4 with the idea of checkmate on the back rank. So right now, defender again have a two move, king c8 or rook e1. Okay, by king c8 here we will playing bishop d5. The idea is clear. White wanna checkmating on a back rank, so he has to play in king b8, and then rook will be shifting to the a4 to checkmating on a8. So here rook e1 would be another idea to defending the back rank checkmate. Right now, if we making check on h8, defender will playing simply rook e8, and black is able to holding the game. Here we will see the point of the bishop b3. Bishop a4, very strong move, very smart decision. Right now, we wanna checkmating on h8. So looks like force for defender to playing king c8, and here we have a brilliant move, rook b4. What's going on? By playing rook b4, white is looking to making check on d7 and then checkmating on b8. It seems defender is not able to holding the game. For example, if playing rook c1, we will make a check and then rook b8, checkmate. So here after bishop b3, the best move would be rook c3. If black playing rook c3 right now, we reach the previous position that the defender rook was on the third rank. So here try to think on the position and find a way how we can making progress. Okay, let's continue. Bishop e6. Very smart decision. The idea is clear. Checkmate on b8. Probably there is no way for defender. Just he has to making check on d3, and we're playing bishop d5. What was the point? By playing bishop e6 and bishop d5, we reached the previous position, which opponent rook was on the third rank, or our bishop covering the checks by keeping on d5. So here after king c8, winning move would be easy, rook a7 with the idea checkmate, and there is no any way for defender to playing rook b3. So he has to playing rook c3 to stopping the checkmate by rook c8. And right now we will making check on d7. So this check is pretty important when you see your opponent's rook in the third rank. So here, once again, king e8 will be met by rook g7 with the idea checkmate. Black cannot playing rook f3, and king c8 will be met by rook g7 with the idea checkmate on the back rank. So black has to playing king b8, and right now again check on b7, king c8, and then rook b4. Very smart decision. The idea is blocking the rook with the bishop. So right now threatening would be just check on e6 and then checkmate on b8. Probably rook d3 will meet by rook a4 because we already control the b3 squares. And king d8 will meet by smart decision, bishop c4. By this move, the threatening would be easier and clear. Rook b8 checkmate. Okay, defender has to play in king c8, check here, and then finally checkmate. So it seems from the Philidor position, we have around 23 moves to checkmate. So hope this example was useful for you. Try to remember, defending is not easy. And if you want also winning the game as an attacker, so you have to know the rules some rook maneuverings like rook g7 and giving the time to your opponents, and then bringing the rook to the other side, and some idea like bishop b3 or covering with the bishop on c4 or on e4 was the key elements for the winning this ending. Hope you enjoy, and in the second part we will go into the how to defending as a defender. I hope you enjoy. Please subscribe your channel, like the videos, and also share it to your friends. All the best till to next. Bye bye.